Hello, everyone. My name is Angela, middle initial K, last name Durden, and welcome to Stolen Hours. Stolen Hours is brought to you by my publishing company called Blue Room Books. You can see the website at the bottom on the little chyron that's going by. Today, our guests are two authors. I'm going to use the word prolific. That's what I'm going to do. Because they are, and they've always got something in the works, and they've always done other things. I think you're going to enjoy them. The first one, her name is Lynn Hesse, and the second one is Marlene Ratledge Buchanan. And I'm going to bring them to the stage right now. Let's add to the stage. Let's add to the stage. And hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. That is so great. We had a little bit of drama trying to get connected up. And yet, while we might rail against technology sometimes, look at this. We are in three different houses. I don't know where, well, I know where you are, Lynn. I'm not sure where you are. Where are you at, Marlene?
I'm just outside of Snellville in Loganville.
Okay, well, we're all in the metro Atlanta area, but
Yes.
imagine the gas and the time and all this sort of thing and setting up a studio for all of us to do. Okay, you see how, yeah, we had a little bit of drama setting up, getting the sound going, but you know what? At least we're in our air conditioned houses. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I got a fan at my feet too. I'm just saying. Well, listen, the show today is about adventures in the writing process. So let me get started by asking Lynn, and then I'll ask Marlene. Lynn, how many books do you now have published, and how many do you have in the works?
Well, I have five published, and I have one which is done, is sitting on the publisher's desk. So,
Okay,
yeah,
that would be me.
that would be you. I didn't know if you wanted me to blurt that out or not.
Well, I'll put it out there because it's on my desk.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, Marlene, how many books have you
I
written,
have
and how
I
many's in
have
the works?
three I have three published. I have two on their way to you in the email process. And then I've got two more that are in the works.
Wow, wow. Well, uh, I knew I was going to ask y'all this question. So then I thought, well, geez, Angela, how many books have you written? And and now I hesitate to say because I don't want y'all to think I'm like being braggadocious, but I have 22 published books,
Wow.
and I did not realize it was that many. Okay, then I got to looking at my shelves, and I realized I have helped to write uh, several other books with people who had an idea, mostly business type books or something that would help tell their story, like a memoir or something like that, but they didn't know how to put it together. So very heavy editing with moving things around and that. Those were gracious plenty. But of course, I've been in this business since, I've been in the publishing business since 1996.
Mm.
So y'all are kind of more new to this whole process than me. So it's not y'all just give time, y'all catch up. Um, but I know I've talked with Lynn about the writing process before, as we moan and groan about what our characters are making us do, and and then I got to talking to Marlene one day, and she kept me laughing so much. I mean, I was just about choking to death on laughter because she's so funny. But she was saying some of the same stuff that Lynn and I talked about. And I said, we three need to do a podcast. And let's talk about the realities, not what the agents are telling us the writing process should be like, not what a publisher tells us what the writing process should be like, but what is it really like, boots on the ground, putting together a damn book. Oops. And I can tell you every book that I've got, of which they run from memoir to business to uh, children's to humor to serial killers to uh, cozies set in the jazz community here in Atlanta. Um, uh, and so forth.
Mhm.
Not a one of them have I ever been able to say, here's the process and let me follow it and it'll get done. What say you?
Hmm.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Okay, well, I'm definitely a person who writes sort of like that flashlight, and it's lighting up the road, and I go as far as I can, and I have to stop and think about it. So I cannot write with an outline. I keep a running outline, so every day I kind of document what I just wrote, so I can go back and
without having to read everything.
yeah, I kind of
Yeah.
could go to chapter so and so that scene, but I cannot write from an outline. And I have to say that if I read a book and I can feel that formula in the book, not saying you can't write a great book with an outline, but I'm saying if I know it, I usually get bored. That's just me.
Yeah. Well, I can totally understand that though. Um, I was trying to explain to somebody one day about why I liked the John le Carré novels. He does all the spy world novels and has done them so well. Is because as many years as I've been reading his stuff, I have never once run into a formula that he followed. His characters, I am sure he probably got to the same point as you did, Lynn, or you, Marlene, or me, where we said our character is doing something we didn't expect. Now, what are we going to do? I never once felt that, and I have always had great respect for him. For his writing. His personal life was a big mess, but his writing was absolutely drop dead awesome. And there's not many books that I will keep on my shelf until I die. His are. And I've never once had any formulaic anything show up, as opposed to, oh gosh, who wrote the Bosch series? Michael, I know his name. I've met him.
That
I'll have whoever knows the Bosch. They've turned them into two series, the Bosch and then the Bosch Legacy, and went over several seasons. And his books are so formulaic because he's got to get a lot done. He has to write one a year, and he can't afford to go and invent something new. So he follows his characters. He knows what the characters will do and say, and he already has the crime laid out, blah, 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 how they're going to do it. And after reading about 3 or 4 of those, I knew there was going to be no surprise. And I knew who was going to say what. And I was not happy about that. Now, I will tell you, when his books were made into the film versions of them, or the series, they filmed them. They had actors.
plays out of yeah.
I will tell you that the scriptwriters did great in cutting out all the blah. And it was seat of your pants stuff, man. If only he could write his books like that, then I would buy more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, Marlene, what have your characters done to you?
Well,
Treated you bad, did they?
I just get an idea and sit down and write it. My first book was a group of essays just based on finding the humor in all the bad stuff that happens in life. And I've started a series in a little town called Near Enough. Near Enough Athens, Near Enough Atlanta.
I love it.
Near Enough the Expressway. I haven't gotten very far with that because I'm sending you things. I don't have a formula. I certainly don't do an outline. I hated them in high school, and I hate them now.
Yeah.
If I have an idea, this morning I wrote down 2 or 3 things that just popped in my head, and I thought, well, that'll be a little story. So that's how they come about. My second book is a little cozy mystery, and I heard the name, A Place in Time, and I thought, oh, that'd be a good name for a book. So it became A Place with a Past, and they just evolve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they are Southern. You're not going to find me trying to do a Northern accent or, place them somewhere that's just not down here in the South. Write what you know.
I was telling Marlene that I took this trip to Missouri and I stopped at this really clean TSA. It wasn't very big, but it was just so well kept. And they had,
what is a TSA?
It's a truck stop, but it's like nice.
Oh, the brand TSA.
Sleep and
yes,
have washers and dryers. So I got to talking to the woman who was cleaning, and I said, well, this is so nice, and your food's so fresh, and I just love this place. And I said, this is just for truckers, right? And she said, oh no, if you want to come in here, you can take a shower for $18.50, and we give you soap and all this stuff. Well, my mind's just going crazy. I'm thinking, wow, wouldn't that be a cool book to go across country, stop at TSAs, and the adventures that happen at the TSAs?
Yeah.
These are the kind of things that happen to me, just little off the wall things that I'm thinking, and I may never do that trip, although I'd love to. I could write about that trip in my imagination.
That's right. Absolutely. It's amazing where your imagination can take you. Sometimes in really great places and sometimes not so good.
Yeah, but
Marlene has a book. I don't know if it's the one she's sending you. Marlene has a book with a serial killer in it, and it is heavy. It's heavy versus her cozies. You know what I'm saying? I mean, she covers the game.
Yeah.
That is one of the ones I'm starting your day off with.
That'll be good.
Someone said, you can't write a really nitty gritty, ugly book. So I did. So,
Well, wait. Somebody told you couldn't, or because you were unable, or that you weren't allowed to, or they just couldn't see how you could?
They just didn't see how I could write something like that. What they didn't realize was I've been typing police reports since I was about 11 or 12 years old. My daddy was a policeman in the city of Atlanta. I have all of his case files. So,
no.
I used to go with the policeman when they needed a female to transport a female prisoner. So, yeah.
Yeah, you've been in the nitty gritty. You've lived the nitty gritty. Yeah. Oh man. Well, let's talk for a minute now about how our characters surprise us. Now, I will tell you the first time I wrote a novel. I had not ever done long form novel before, and I had this idea based upon something that somebody said to me. Long story short, somebody said something to me, and I said, "Now that's a great opening line to a novel." And he just looked at me like I was a nut job. What, But I already had the whole story in my mind, except when I went to put it on paper, and come to find out the main character was a smartass. I did not know he was going to be a funny smartass too, and that it would get him in trouble. Because Lynn knows me. Lynn knows me that maybe privately I might be a smartass, but in the real world, when I'm out and about, I try to be polite.
Well,
although sometimes I think, I've got this shirt that says, and yet you, with seeing the look on my face, you keep talking. So I know that my face probably says a lot. Maybe that's why people get mad at me. I don't know. I don't care. But that character surprised me. So now what I had written, I realized I had written a lot, and I thought, I'm gonna have to go and change all of this because it's not ringing true to him. And he told me he was a smart ass, and that's just all there is to it. But he's very good, former military police, now private investigator, and he knows what he's doing. So how do you balance that, and then how do you follow that through without it becoming without the character becoming a one trick pony? You see what I mean?
Yes.
So how do y'all handle that when a character? I know, Lynn, you were just telling me a character surprised you. What was it you were telling me about?
Well, I told you about what happened with this new novel that's on your desk.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. Okay,
That
take it away, Lynn.
yeah, I mean, I thought I was writing a historical novel straight, and I should have known better. But anyway, I get in about, I don't know, 25 pages, and I know that my character, I kind of know where I'm going. I think I know where I'm going, and my female character, the midwife, wakes up in a cave. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I don't want this. I don't know where you're doing. And I don't want this. So I struggled with it for a couple of days, maybe it was longer than that. I try to not let go more than 3 days before I get back to some. And I finally said, okay, fine. Let's look at this cave. What are we doing in this cave? And so it turns out that I've got an historical fiction fantasy. Okay. So, which I realized was probably going to be harder to sell and blah, blah, blah. But it was like, hey, this is what I got to write. It's coming. It's there. The character's there. And then in my second book with Another Kind of Hero, I was writing along. I was doing a traditional mystery. It was set in South Georgia and Forsyth, where my people live. Small town.
Now, Lynn, let me just tell everybody right now, because I think this is very important. You were a police officer for many, many years in various roles, everything from what would you call it, a beat cop to homicide investigation?
I was a detective for 3 years in TSU, which is the traffic division. So I worked the traffic, the homicide.
Yeah. So as people listen to this, I just want them to know that you have a background in police stuff also, and it's real life stuff. And just in case they're wondering how you know this, that, or the other. So
yeah,
go ahead. Sorry.
So in this Another Kind of Hero, I'm thinking I've got 2 sister sleuths. I've got a DEA undercover agent. I think I'm kind of knowing where I'm going. And I wake up one morning and I got this character in my head, Wanda. I know her name. I know who she is. I can hear her. I can even hear her voice. I swear.
Oh my God.
Not crazy. And again, I tried not to write her because I didn't want a paranormal. I just wanted a straight traditional mystery. Well, she turns out to be, she's not a woo-woo ghost. She's more of a communicator back and forth, trying to help these sisters not get into too much trouble. But that was a real experience of just fighting not to put this character in there. And finally, I just said, okay, fine. I like you. I'll put you in there.
And what did you find once you put her in there? What happened with the story as a whole? Did it gel? Did it fall apart?
It took off.
Whoa.
And I fell in love with Wanda, obviously. I was like, okay, I love you. Because she's very like matter of fact. This is how I feel about things. If you don't like it, too bad, and I liked her a lot. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, she's one of the sisters' best friend. She's been dead like a year. So, she can't go but to her friend's house or to her godson's house. So it's where she can go.
Yeah. So, but what you're saying is that the things that she was doing and how she was doing it is what pulled all these other elements together to make this whole. Is that what you're saying? To make this thing actually now not be flailing about.
Right. Because there was information the sisters wouldn't have had any other way. And it also made the story more complicated because then it brought in the godson and, how was he going to fit in and all that. So, yeah, she was definitely, it it was definitely important that she was in the story. And I know that Marlene has had similar experiences. Go for it, Marlene.
You're up, Marlene.
And I do love Wanda, and I think she needs to come back.
You think so? Okay.
She really does. I just, in my cozy mysteries, I tend to have a female as the main character, and I usually base her on being a teacher and letting her grow from that with the experiences around her. One of the books that I have, she's just taken a new job in another city, and she's lost both of her parents, and she's looking for a home to buy. And she's driving around this town, and she sees the ideal house. Well, she walks up and is trying to look in the windows, but there were lace curtains and she couldn't see. And the door opens, and a little tiny woman is standing there. And she says, "Are you interested in the house?" "Yes, ma'am. I just think the house is beautiful." And she said, "Well, come in." And she gives her the $1.98 to her. She meets the family cat, Thomas, and everything is wonderful. Long story short, she puts an offer on the house. At closing, she tells them how delightful their Aunt Bitsy was, and she enjoyed so much spending time with her and the cat. And one of the nieces says, "Aunt Bitsy's been dead since last March." And that's where it goes off and running. And Bitsy becomes a very real person. And so does Thomas the cat, who, by the way, loves to eat bacon. Unfortunately, when he gets up off the chair, the bacon is still sitting there. It's that kind of thing. And she starts pulling in all these other people. And I know they're based on people I know. I mean, I just can't help it. I know some of the strangest people in the whole world. And they just find a place in my stories, sometimes with a different name, sometimes not. But my characters just come to me and they say, "Well, here I am, and this is what I'm going to do."
Whether you like it or not.
That's exactly right.
Right.
And sometimes I don't like it, but they do it.
You know, my first novel ended up with the smart-ass retired MP, now Private Eye, turned out to be about one man who became a serial killer in his second year of college, something like that, maybe third year of college. And he had when he made his first kill. Now, I did not know he was going to be a serial killer when I started this book. I thought he was just going to be a guy who killed this woman who would not return his affection. She was a fellow student. And the parents, who were now grown old, because it had been 35 years since she had been killed. The parents had been saving up all kinds of money to finally, once and for all, when they could afford it, hire a private investigator to find out where her bones are. They wanted to bury her next to them. They had 3 plots laid out. That was their only child. So I thought this story was going to be about a man who killed one woman and trying to find the bones. Well, everybody knew he did it, but try to prove it. And he was son of extremely wealthy family and so forth and so on. Well, next thing I know, this bad guy has been reliving this first kill over and over and over and over and over again, based on something that happened when he was 15 in high school, and a girl had turned him down. They all looked like her, including the first kill in college. Now, what did I know of serial killers other than they want what they want when they want it? So I went with that premise. And myself, I did not want to write procedurals. You've got people who can write wonderful procedurals, whether it's legal, medical, law enforcement, and people who want to get into that sort of nitty gritty of the daily grind love those kinds of novels. I don't want to write that kind of stuff. I want to get into the human part of it, not the paperwork part. And so I had to start doing a lot of, I knew some about serial killers, who doesn't, but growing up with Bundy and some others. But the thing is that I did not expect it. And so how I had to go about writing the story now to make it a believable thing and not a serial killer who has some over the top personality, that's a Hannibal Lecter or something like that. I didn't want to do that. They are not that kind of person. They are a human. How can I get down to the core of their humanity? Let me tell you something. It's hard. It's hard to do. But if you don't, at least to me, if you don't get to the humanity or lack of humanity in that person in a realistic fashion, then all you've got is just a titillating story that may or may not titillate once you read the second novel. You see what I mean? I feel like I'm rambling.
Well, in reality, murderers are not necessarily. Everybody always says, "Well, he was such a nice guy," or she was such a wonderful community activist, or whatever. And in reality, we all could be violent, number one. But serial killers, as you did when you studied them, are kind of a special breed, but they learn to look and act normal. If they didn't, they'd get caught, right? They'd never really be a serial killer, right? They get caught. Yeah. So you're right. They have this, they know how to do the persona, they know how to interact, and sometimes they're super charming people. Yeah.
That's what they've got to have to draw people to them. They've got to be able to engage people, unless they're just going to drive down the street and shoot people. They've got to have something that draws them into the killer, and your guy just really enjoyed killing women. So, he wanted to enjoy it forever.
Yeah. YouTube, I don't know how much y'all go onto YouTube, but, and I don't know why, maybe it's because, the algorithms see me doing research or whatever. And so they share that algorithm with YouTube, and YouTube feeds me all kinds of crime stuff. And there's series on YouTube. They had been on broadcast TV years ago, but they're still relevant today. And they replay them on YouTube, and they interview these serial killers. And they ask them, how is it they manage, how did you manage to get away with it all this time, and they smile. And you'd be thinking you're sitting at a fancy dinner saying, so what have you invested in lately? Well, let me tell you, that kind of attitude from them. And the things that pop out of their mouth with absolutely no emotion whatsoever, other than, I'm pretty proud. It went pretty good. It has helped me to be able to understand them better, but I don't like them. I know some people say you need to have a bad guy with depth, with some good part of him, so you can make him have some sympathy for him. I don't have sympathy for killers, but I do need to show their personality and let them show it in all its glory or gory, without going into the my books about murder. I don't go into all the I may say later that they found blood splashed here, there, and yonder, but I don't go into the chop bit like some others do. I don't want to do. I don't. To me, that's glorifying them. But if I write about how they are caught and what did them in that way, that is glorifying to me, the law enforcement side of it or the good guy side of it, whichever it happens to be. Do y'all run into that sort of thing too?
Well, with my serial killer, he only succeeds in killing 2 out of the 5 people that he's targeted. And it is based on occurrences when he was a child.
Mm.
So again, like you, there was a trigger, and then it built from there.
Mm-hmm.
I do, chop people up, but it's part of the personality that he has based on what happened to him. And I think that he has redeeming qualities if he had not experienced what he had experienced in foster care as a young boy and a young man. He could have been a very happy and productive member of society. And what catches him? He messed up one time, and the police officer went, "That's the trigger. That's the trigger." So I think that we have to flesh out. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I like killing people, but I don't like cutting them up and doing what this boy did, but it was necessary. But I do think that we need to flesh those people out and show the various stages of their development. We don't have to go day by day or start when they're very young and go to their middle ages. But I do think that we need to build them with muscle and bone and thought processes that lead them into whatever trench they end up in.
I totally agree with you on that. In fact, the first book I wrote with the serial killer in it, I was taking it to my writing critique group, and there was a point where he was caught, but he wasn't under law enforcement care at that time, or he was out in the middle of the ocean, and he was being forced to write down the history of everything that he had done. And he was writing this stuff, and he was enjoying it. He was reliving everything. And I'm writing all these stories down, and I bring it to the group, and I finished reading, and they were all just going, "Okay, is there any way you can leave out this center part where it was
gruesome.
Leave out that part, show him going into it, show him coming out of it, because you can't do this but once in a book and then allow him to go in and come out with all the main character summarizing it briefly, as he's reading the things." So at that point is when I said, I went into I don't want to say I went into a dark place, but to get into that mind to understand it, to understand his motivation, his enjoyment, at some point you do have to walk a mile in their shoes metaphorically.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that the gruesome parts I didn't need. Tell it once and then hint at it the rest of the time.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I agree. I know when I wrote that story, by the time it was over, I had to come out with something positive at the end. I had to have him caught, but I had to have something positive at the end because I was sitting in a hole and my ladder wasn't quite tall enough to get me out. So I understand what you say. We don't get engaged. We become the different people in our books.
Yes.
And that is exactly right. I can become those in order to understand them. And it's fun if it's a lighthearted character,
Yeah.
with no problems, but they're just stupid. And they get themselves in trouble because they're just stupid. They don't know they hold the key to finding the bad guy. Well, I don't know.
While you guys are talking, I realized with my first book, Well of Rage, obviously there's some anger in that book.
Yes,
Uh,
a whole well of it.
Hold on. And I realized, I have a police officer that is burnout, and he spirals down in this book. And the main character is a rookie female, and that's her training officer, unfortunately. But my point was that there is not what I would call a lot of violence in the book. There's one scene that is the culmination of the climax, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some domestic violence in the book, and I've done a lot of work in domestic violence, so I know from what I talk about. And to me, it was necessary to show what this bad guy would do in a domestic violence situation. And so there is a sexual assault / rape. She's married to this guy, but there is a really ugly scene in the garage. And I have had more criticism for that scene. It's very short. It's very short.
But it is a dynamic scene.
I know. I read it. So what's the criticism?
I think, and I could be wrong, but I think if a guy had written it, they would have blinked. But because a female wrote that scene, I have had, I can't tell you how many people said, I love your book except for that scene.
But Lynn, and this is just my observation, because I read that book, and yes, there is some anger in there, and there is some experiences in there that I understand. But with some of the things that I write, I have a Halloween story that is based on fact. It was one of my daddy's cases. People want to see me writing funny stuff. They want to see me making them, they can give me their problems and I can make them handle them better. That's how they want to see me. When they see my character eviscerating someone and dancing around with the intestines, they're going to hate it, because that's not my perception that they have.
It's not your image.
That's not my image. And that's what I think happened with that scene in your book. They forget that you have the experiences of dealing with cases like that. You've seen that in reality, and people, yes, they're based on daddy's cases. I saw the evisceration. I saw the decapitation. So it's just, we're basing it on our experiences, but not their perception.
Well, as long as it's not gratuitous.
Yeah.
You're not just throwing it on there. And that was certainly not what it was, because
no, it wasn't.
I really wanted it to be almost like a film scene where it's very short, it's very condensed or dense.
It's very tight.
Just for 5 seconds or something.
It's very tight and it's very tense.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I wanted.
Yeah, and it works. And it was necessary.
Yeah.
So let me ask y'all a question, because I've always gotten this. If I've spoken in front of groups, when I've gone out singing, when I've read scenes from my books, I always get afterwards people coming up to me and going, "You surprised me. I didn't expect that from you." And I go, now the first few times that I got that, I did not understand what they meant. But after about 25 years, the thing has remained the same. And I go, why? And I got this reply, well, I thought you were a school teacher. And I said, okay, well, I'm not. Can't help it that I look like one, and I sound like one, but they didn't expect the outer thing to hold these inner things at all. And so it shocked them. Some people loved what came out. Others were horrified that they were so wrong about me. They didn't even want to talk to me afterwards. She was like, no, I don't want to see this anymore. Which brings me to the question. It sounds like all three of us have had massive amounts of immersion in the dark side of humanity. And because of that, we're not really surprised when our characters do things, and it doesn't cause us angst to write about them, because we feel like there's a lesson there to be learned, how people come out from that, blah, blah, blah. So do you think that sometimes people wanting us to write what they want, even though we can't read their minds? I mean, how do you know what a reader wants? You don't know. Do you think it's because of their not having very much experience with the totality of human nature?
Well,
they're out of their comfort zone.
Yeah. Lynn especially has had a great number of experiences that most women don't have. As a matter of fact, she was one of the early female police officers, so she's gone through a lot more than people that are hired now, even though women are still having to struggle with things. My involvement is more secondary, except that I rode with Daddy an awful lot and saw a lot. And I did type up those cases. But, you know, I think in my career as being a counselor and working with people through their problems, they see me from that issue, bringing them out of their hole. And what they see me with the books is I'm digging that hole. And then I throw them in, you know, and then I throw them in, and then I throw them a lifeline. Well, my first two books are lighthearted. The first one, Life is Hard, Soften It with Laughter. It was based on a number of different hardships in finding the funny in them. You know, I used to call the Glow Girls at the radiation center, you know, different things. And I would talk about the three-headed hydra because that was the radiation machine looking down. You just have to find the humor or the lightness to keep you from staying in that hole. But yes, I really do like to dig those holes, and I really do like to throw people in because it makes me feel good.
Brava.
Yeah, I've kind of struggled with putting romance, any kind of romance in my novels. I don't read romance per se.
Yeah.
Don't have a problem if there happens to be
what
in there.
You don't have shelves full of bodice rippers?
No. So it seems like, and I could be, you know, I'm just going to say what I think. This is my opinion, that it seems to be easier to get a romance, you know, published.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and it's never going to happen for me. It's never going to happen. But I was surprised when I wrote 40 Knots of Burn, which you published, your Blue and Booze published.
Very good book. Very good book.
There is a romance in there. It's not gooey. It's not mushy, but
But it is unexpected.
It is unexpected.
Because these characters didn't give any thought to that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
They just, it took them both by surprise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because of all the things they thought they wanted and needed and might have been looking for, whether it be nothing or a certain thing, that they found each other and it worked.
Yeah, the 49 Spurns has a con artist, a female con artist.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
It's
no, I know. It was really it wasn't forced.
It naturally evolved.
What?
It naturally evolved.
It did. It naturally evolved, and it seemed like this is something that could happen. This is really something that could happen.
Yeah.
And so, I liked it. I liked it. Which, by the way, Lynn, I'll call you once we finish this. But your new book, Past of the Stars, or Part of the Stars. That's what it is. I think something like that.
That title, we don't know if that's
the real title yet. So ignore that. But that one, I finished going through it, and so we need to get together and sit down and let's go over some of these things, because but the thing is that okay, I don't like fantasy. I would never choose to write a fantasy book, to buy a fantasy book, time travel, whatever. I know a friend of mine's written a time travel thing into the 14th century, back and forth. Even she got confused after a point because she didn't know why they were traveling. She didn't know how it came about. It just did. And so anyway, the thing is that dragons and elves and whatever, oh my, holds no Bilbo Baggins and all that crap. I don't care. I like dealing with real humans, real situations, and let's see where it goes. And yet, I'm reading your book, which is why I said that I would publish it, is because while there is that fantasy element of bringing in this alien type situation that will come to Earth involving humans and some other things like that, it itself seemed like it could happen. It was not out of the realm of possibility in this world.
Right.
And I don't believe in that stuff, but the way it was written, it did not feel as if it was, I don't want to use the word forced because that's not the word. It didn't feel strained.
Okay. Well, again, when we're talking about surprise, I wrote some of the cave, as I was developing the cave world.
Right.
It was a lot of fun. I came up with some myths. Some myths were running through that. And there was cave art. And I said, maybe you should go back and do some research because you don't really know a whole lot about this. I mean, I am not a UFO, but I don't do, what I'm saying. I know. That's not my hobby, nothing like that. So I said, you need to go back and do some research. Well, guess what? And this has happened to me more than once. Everything I had written, there was actual reality things that had been written on caves and so forth that backed up exactly what I had written.
Oh my gosh.
I swear. And
so, see, that's another thing. Here, this is an adventure in the writing process. You write about things that they come to you and you think, wow, that's really neat. I'll put it down. Hey, you know what? Maybe I want to flesh it out a little bit. Let me see if there's anything else that might the thing. Where does this come from?
I don't know.
I don't know, but it has
A
happened.
little special worm inside your brain that kind of sends out messages as something travels in. Play Twilight Zone theme here.
Well, I have a theory about that, kind of, sort of, and I had totally forgot about that until just now. I was like, where does this come from? I have a theory. I have a theory that our brains are infinite. They're infinite. We don't know how they're infinite. We don't know why they're infinite, other than God created us that way. But we don't know why we can't use it all. Why is it we can't use it all? Or how do they even know we use 10%? Maybe it's 1/1000th of a percent. That's how infinite it is. But my theory is that we are all born with all knowledge. Everybody is born with all knowledge. But being in our imperfect state that we are, sometimes there's things in our DNA that isn't making the connection. Because, you got some people that are these absolute brilliant geniuses who can knows all the classics, never saw them before or heard them before, but can play them. Got the mathematicians that they didn't go to school to learn how to write these formulas, but they know the formulas and they can read them. So I think that all brains have all knowledge, and yet in our imperfect state, some people have those doors opened more than others. And maybe that's where insanity is coming from. It's where people are seeing things that are so real to them. Their brains are generating this stuff. They don't know why it's there. They're reacting to it, and they can't understand why you don't see it. Maybe there's something we don't know is going on because our door to that particular thing is not open. Now, I know that's just my theory. I have done no research on this. I have not written a scientific paper on it, and I have not submitted it to any journal. So take it for what you wish.
Well, I think that will be a nice little job for you to do. And then you just submit your hypothesis to a number of different magazines.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I haven't got anything else to do.
definitely think that we know things that we don't have. We weren't schooled in whatever. We never run into whatever person to tell us this stuff, but yet we know it. And things would happen when I was a kid. And I don't think I'm unusual in this sense, but something would happen and I'd make some kind of off the, just out of the blue. I was kind of a shy kid, so I didn't talk a lot, but every once in a while.
I'm shocked.
Well, it's true. I'm very introverted, actually. And so I would say something, during the adult conversation, because Mother was not one of those people who protected her children from adult conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say something and she would be like, how do you know that? I'd be 5 years old and she'd go, how do you know that? Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. There's something. I don't know if it's spiritual. I don't know if it's the way the brain works.
I know.
Or
it could be a combination of several things.
Past life experiences.
Who knows?
Could be.
But I'm just saying that and that's why we've got 3 authors here, and each of us are agreeing on a lot of these things. We're all saying we're having these same types of experiences in our adventures in the writing process, and yet none of us write alike.
No.
We come from it and we bring certain things to it that the others do not bring. And if you were to put these that's why these people are like, well, you need to study your favorite author. I want to and learn to write like them and then make it your own. Well, by the time you've studied somebody and you tried to make it your own, you don't know who the hell you are.
No, you absorb that stuff.
Yes.
And then it treats your perspective.
Exactly. So I with my publishing company, Blue Room Books, I've published things that nobody else would, even though I have one book was his memoir. He's what do you call that? Bipolar.
Mhm.
Absolutely a genius when it comes to music. His name is Joey Huffman. His book tells his story of how he got started in music. 4 years old. I need a guitar, and it needs to be a bass guitar. And then teaching himself piano and these other things, and yet he can't hardly function in the real world. But you put him in a band on a stage and give him a piano and all these other, like I think they call them moogs and stuff like that. If you're a music person, don't tell me that I'm wrong about it, but there's all these different things that he can do, and then walk away from that over to a guitar, to a bass, drums. He can do so many different things, and he is a genius at it. But he can't hardly function. He would never have been able to have met a deadline by a mainstream publisher, even though he's toured with what's that Rolling Stone guy, Keith
Richards.
Keith Richards and his band. He's was part of the band of 2 or 3 of the big bands in the 90s, and that everybody was going crazy for, and he was the pretty boy. Oh my God, he was the pretty boy. And I don't care who the lead singer was and stuff like that. Camera loved his face. It loved his face, and he was brilliant, but he was a nut job too. So a regular publisher would never have taken the time with him to pull these ramblings together.
Mhm.
And yet I felt like you needed to see the life of somebody who's been dealing with bipolar and how he dealt with it in a halfway fashion. Was he drugged himself up out the wazoo with LSD and other substances that kept the bipolar kind of while he was performing, and then off he'd go, when he tried to get off of it. He's had a brain tumor. I felt like this story, while he was not the guy that sold the tickets, that people bought the tickets to see, he was part of the support of that thing. I felt like it needed to be told because he has tried his damnedest to function. Nobody else would have done it, and yet I felt like it needed to be done. I haven't made any money on it, not for the amount of time I've had in it, not for the amount of work it took, and not for the amount of hand holding and that sort of thing to get him to finish it up. Here we need to know this.
Yeah.
And being able to rearrange the order of his life so that it was emotionally this way as opposed to something else. And I've done that for other people too, who I felt like their books needed to be published, and mainstream publishers were not ever going to touch them. In fact, one man had worked for 12 years trying to get publishers interested. They didn't want to do it. And yet his book is called The Musician. His name is Mike Shaw. Is brilliant. It's just brilliant. And so,
yeah,
I published that. So why I choose to publish something or why I don't is for me. It's not for what the publishing world is going to think about me. I think, have y'all, you've heard of archaeologists digging up these old papers from way back when, when they get down deep enough, or the scrolls and this sort of thing. And they're finding all kinds of interesting things written by nobodies, just regular normal people. who left behind something. And yet it proved to be enlightening. So at what point will these things be enlightening on a grander scale? I don't know, but it's up to me to put them out there.
Well, thank goodness you're willing to take the chance to let people share their voice. It's
And
like the young man you were talking about. He's
yeah,
sort of a savant. He has his area,
yes,
but he fails in the others. And
yes,
and he would, like you say, he would have had direction, because that part of his brain, his left part of his brain, just doesn't function.
yeah,
It doesn't become orderly.
yeah, yeah.
Well, it begs the question about art. Do we make art for the sake of art,
Mhm.
that creation process, or do we make it to make money? Sometimes the two come together. Sometimes,
Most of the time they don't.
but
They don't, right.
I have to continually ask myself every time I start a new project, okay, you really want to do this, but you understand you might not make money doing this.
So why do you do it? And to your point, if you're going into it to make money, without with the la 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 la, my stuff is so great, it's gonna sell and I won't even have to do anything, mailbox money. If you go into it with that, you're not gonna. I mean, it's gonna be a 1 in a billion that might happen. Mostly, it won't. So, willing to do for what reason, and what's the motivation? And you want to know what one of my goals is in setting up this publishing thing, because there's some books that just don't need publishing. They just don't. Badly written. Gross content that nobody needs to read, whatever, porn. My goal is to stop the publishing of any book that really, even 200 years from now, is not going to be useful. And nobody's going to want to read it, because they can get on with their life. Maybe they've got something better to do than just because they had an idea that they could write a book and I'll be an author. It doesn't mean anything. And it might not mean anything in your lifetime. Your stuff may find an audience long years later after your death, and your heirs may benefit. I'm just saying. We don't know. So why do we do it? So, Lynn, why do you do it?
Well, it's kind of like my dance, okay? If I'm not dancing on some level, I'm not happy. I am very unhappy. And because this is the work that I've chosen to do, this is my day job, writing, I feel unsettled if I don't, have that process, that I'm not writing, my whatever time that I usually write in the morning. If there's a couple of days where I have appointments or something like that, and I'm out of that rhythm, and I can feel it. It's an internal body thing. I am not balanced.
So you're not in your groove.
I'm really, I can feel it physically as well as mentally if I don't work, if I don't create that work. It doesn't have to be a huge amount, but I have to touch base with it. And so I've come to terms with it. This is me. I need to do it. I need to dance. I know I'm getting old, but I need to dance and I need to write. And I retired from law enforcement to do just that. So
yeah, how long have you been retired now?
I retired in 2003.
So that's
5 years, yeah.
Huh?
I had 25 years in.
Yeah, 25 years in. And so it's been 22 years since you retired then?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's awesome. Because I'll tell you what, I bet you anything that this is who you were when you were born. Introspective, creative, but you had to do other things for a while. You
Yeah.
had to eat.
Food on the table. Raise that child.
And so now you're coming back around to connecting with that which is truly Lynn. Lynn fought her battles in the police force. Lynn did good work in the police force. Uh, and Lynn's life doing that was not a waste at all and benefited many people. But is that truly who Lynn was? It seems to me you're getting in touch with who you are, because when you don't do those things, that dancing and that writing, then your mind, your DNA, your heart, your soul needs to connect back to your life. And I can understand that totally. Marlene,
Yes,
why
ma'am.
are you writing? When did you
Well,
start writing?
I've been making up stories really all of my life.
Well,
Um,
yes.
and when I was in I think it was in the ninth grade. Anyway, it was an English class, and we were told to write a story, and I did. I wish I could find that thing now. But anyway, the teacher really bragged on me.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that I had a very powerful scene in there. And that kind of encouraged me a little bit. I was a teacher and a counselor for 34 years. And when I retired, um, my responsibilities did not decrease, they increased. Um, I have a special needs child, which is
Oh,
the third book, Tips, Tricks, and Techniques to help parents help their children learn. And it was based on all of the research and all the studies and all the stuff that Snell and I did to help James, who is something of a savant himself. But I think I was shy. I bet I went through school and never said more than 500 words unless a teacher called on me. But I grew up as an only child with older people. I followed daddy to work. My relationships were with older people. And I just think that somewhere along the line, something in that little worm in the back of my head said, you have too much fantasy going on in your life. Put it down on paper. And that's how it occurred. And now I just write when I can snatch a little bit of time. I don't have, I wish I could do like Lynn and set up an hour or two every day, but I have other responsibilities. My son doesn't drive. My husband's, 86. And
oh.
so we just go with whatever we have for the day.
Well, I my writing process does not involve uh, structure. I do a ton of writing in my head and rewriting and all that sort of thing. And I can go 2 weeks and just every day, all day long, as I'm doing stuff, I'm working out a scene. I'm trying this dialogue. I'm trying that dialogue. So while I'm not at my computer writing, it's still going on up here. And so then when it becomes ready to put on paper, my body literally lets me know.
Uh-huh.
The tips of my fingers start throbbing. Is this ready? It's a physical thing. So I'll go, okay, and poof. And it's, I might have some typos and that sort of thing. There might be a little bit of editing, but as it sits, it's working. And if I had have just been saying, well, I must write at this time of day for this long a period of time. My brain does not work that way. I tried it. Let me ask you each another question. And I will tell you that this did happen to me. So this is a real life question, and I'm just hoping some other author has had it, although they may not have. I once wrote my very first novel, I will have to say, that totally made sense, could totally work, but only if somebody else had written it. It was that bad. I worked on that thing for 10 years.
Oh.
10 years. And I said, what is wrong with this? And then I said, oh, I know. It needs to be told from the omniscient narrator's point of view. Couldn't write it. Could not write it. I finally said, well, I said some bad words, but I put it in its grave. It was called The Trash Can. It was 60, 70,000 words, but the premise still would work, but I just can't write it. Have y'all ever found there's ever been anything where you thought you had this great idea and you started and you did a whole bunch of writing and you just said, yeah, no, this isn't it, and thrown it away? Anybody?
Well, my first book took about 10 years to write because I kept rewriting it. And I joined a critique group, which probably wasn't the best critique group for me in the beginning. That's another thing. If you feel like you're not in the right critique group,
get out.
Get out. I was too dumb to know that. Doesn't mean it wasn't right for other people, but it wasn't right for me in my book. And so, and of course I'm learning to write. And somebody said, it'll take you 10 years to learn to write. And I was like, nah, it wouldn't take that long. And I took the courses you're supposed to take and the webinars and all that stuff. But now that I look back, I think that probably at least 50% of the whole thing I was part of a women's group too, a women's writing group. Part of the problem was that I had PTSD and I was dealing with that while I was trying to write. And you do have to have a perspective instead of just, putting out all your gripes, moans, and complaints. This is supposed to be a character who's developing over time. And, you need to get a perspective if you actually have been in law enforcement, for instance, or if you're a doctor, I guess it'd be the same thing. You have to gain some kind of perspective about it.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about, I want that character. I want to know that character. Okay. Not that bits and parts of me is not in that character, but it can't be me.
No, it can't be.
And so that was really about 50% of the problem with the 10 years writing that first book.
I think you just hit on something, Lynn, because that novel that I threw away and have never regretted it, I think I was putting myself too much in it as if it was me. Maybe I wonder if the reason it didn't turn out so well is because I was trying to think, how would other people view me if my character said and did? So I based a character on myself that doesn't want to do those things. And it just didn't turn out. So I think because I was going through some stuff too. And I don't think I could get the space from my angst to be able to see the character's angst properly in their world.
Right.
Oh, that is excellent. Excellent. I have never thought of that. That really helped. That's very helpful, Lynn. I hope everybody who's watching this heard that.
I made a statement on a panel that you have to be emotionally ready to write that particular book. And I got these blank stares. It was like, the people in the audience did not know, and even a lot of them were authors. It was at a writing organization, actually. And I thought, oh, I have totally lost them. They don't know what I'm talking about. But that's what I was, probably didn't explain it well enough. But that's what I meant, was that I had had that experience.
Right. Yeah. You know, I guess it could be boiled down to, if you're going to write, you know how some people fictionalize their life, and it's and they name the characters different things, but you know it's them, and it just doesn't work well. My thing is, if you're going to write about your own life, write about your own life and figure it out before you go trying to have a character in a book. Try to figure it out. The PTSD thing, I have massive PTSD that I still deal with now, based upon a long history of abuse in my childhood, and that stuff stays with you for a long time. And I finally started working on it, that sort of thing. And this novel was started during the height of that, because I felt like I just needed to write something, and maybe that would solve all my problems. But it doesn't. It just doesn't. All it did was make me lose. What's the word? Waste time. Although I will tell you what I did was, I had printed it out and put it in a 3-ring binder, because at the time I was visiting schools, and I was working with 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade with an hour-long program on called Punctuation is Power. And they didn't understand writing. So I had boiled down this thing to an hour-long program for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders that would help them understand the process of writing without worrying about punctuation. Punctuation, you don't have to worry about it first. Punctuation is something that, after you've got your story down, now you look at your punctuation and decide what works and what doesn't based upon what you want to happen. And so it was very popular while there was a lot of money floating around in Atlanta at the time with schools, and I was in and out of. My daughter was connected. She was on the phone talking to everybody and setting these things up. So I used to take this 3-ring binder where I had gone through, and I had taken a red pen, and I had gone through going, nope, it went through the whole thing. So I would take it with me, and I would go, now listen, there's going to come a point where your teachers or your friend reading your story is going to say, this doesn't need to have a period there. It needs a semicolon or something like that. And you're going to go, and the kids all laugh, because that's what they do. So, but let me show you what real editing looks like in the real world. And I would hold this thing up, and I would just start flipping red pages, and the mouths on every kid would drop. I mean, they just go, and I would say, this is the real world. And this is for somebody who does know how to write, but it doesn't matter. When you're in the middle of writing and you're in the middle of the creative process, and if you try to think about whether or not somebody else is going to agree that you put a comma there, you're going to lose the flow of the story. So that helped a lot. But then I got tired of carrying that thing around, and in the trash it went. So.
Yeah.
But so let's see. Let me think. What else in the adventures in the writing process that y'all might want to let the viewers know about?
If I have an idea, I have sticky notes in lots of places. I will write it down. I have a whole drawer full of bits and pieces, that the name of a building or the name of a person or an idea for a little story or something like that. And if I write something and it's just a little short paragraph, but I like it, I put it over into my computer into a save file, and eventually I can go back and pick that up and build from it. So it's just little snatches of things that just kind of occur. Somebody will say something, or I'll see something, or I don't know, I'll have a weird dream, you know, one of those things. And I just make lists of stuff. And I find that you can't make your character do anything. Once you put him on that piece of paper, he's going to do what he wants to do.
Oh, I know. It has never failed.
Mm.
They end up doing something I don't want them to do, and yet it's right for them.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Lynn,
Yeah, I took a playwriting course.
wait. What kind of writing course?
Playwriting.
Oh, play writing plays.
And I got a couple of short plays that were actually produced. But what I learned was so valuable because I learned to write dialogue.
Yes.
I didn't have to worry about setting so much, you know. And of course, you have stage directions. You don't have to worry about doing the gestures. You know, you don't have to be able to make this come alive without, you know, somebody moving around on stage. You're just really concerned about that dialogue. And I found that very helpful in my early stages to take that course. Sometimes I have to go back and really concentrate on setting because I'm so intent, you know, that's my thing, is writing the dialogue. But I think it's really, you can have this marvelous character in your head, but if your dialogue doesn't ring true, then you're going to have problems.
Yeah.
It's not going to flow. And so, and to your point about cuss words or slang or whatever, sometimes the character, if for instance, if he's getting ready to shoot someone, he's probably not going to say, "Dang." Okay, he's probably not going to say, "Shoot, I really hate your guts," and you know, he's probably going to say something else. So,
Gee, I'm sorry it's come to this, but bang.
You know, I don't do a lot of the cuss words in my books, but occasionally there's no other way. And I have challenged myself to write cozies. I was in a cozy anthology, and you couldn't say "dang." You couldn't say anything like that. Mm. And that was certainly a challenge, and I'm glad I did it once. But really, I'll probably never do that again.
Yeah.
You know, because my characters are
they're more connected with the human experience.
Yeah, and so, you know, it's, you know, from my background, it's probably going to be a little more intense, a little more gritty. So anyway, that's, you know, I think that's a good idea especially if you're getting those comments of, you know, you have somebody look at your first couple of short stories and they say, well, you know, this is really good, but the dialogue's kind of, and we hate that word, stilted. But if you get something along those lines, I definitely think taking a course and it's fun, you know, it's fun.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I agree. I think we need to have some classes on how do you develop appropriate dialogue? How do you make it flow so it doesn't sound stilted, or you want it to be a natural, evolving conversation. And we do need classes on dialogue. I don't use profanity. I know all the words and I can spell them, but I don't use them because somewhere years ago, someone said to me, or said in something I read, if your language has to be full of profanity, it just shows how little language skills you have.
You know,
what a weak vocabulary you have.
About 35 years ago, out of the blue, I don't know how this woman in Mississippi found me. I have no clue. I wasn't on the internet. I didn't have email 35 years ago. And I don't know anybody who did. And yet somehow or another, she found me and she said, I want to send you a kind of about a 20,000 word story, and I just like to get your opinion on it. And we may have had something in common, but I don't know what. I don't know how she found out about me. Doesn't matter. So she sends me, a copy, hard copy, in the mail, and she said, just let me know what you think. I'll be happy to. So I'm reading this, and I kid you not, the F word, the classic F word. I don't mean fat. Um,
Which is obscene in its own right.
she had that word in every sentence, sometimes twice, in that story. I read this 20,000 words, and I'm just going, okay, that word needs to come out, because there was only one place in that book that word needed to be. Because she made the mistake of assuming that word held power. Well, it doesn't hold power if you're slapping people upside the face with it every 5 seconds. They're running. They're getting away. If
It
this,
loses
if that, if this.
Yeah, it
But-
loses its impact
But
when you throw it in there one time. It's
in the right spot.
right.
It has to be the right spot. And I identified that spot. I marked it for her. I wrote something. I sent it all back to her, and I get back the nastiest letter of how I wasn't supportive of her anger. Okay, you asked me what I thought.
She had more issues than you could deal with.
Yes, and again, I didn't know what it was going to be about or nothing. Just I want you to read. Okay, so at that point is when I realized that there is a right spot to use those types of words, and you can't just use it willy-nilly, because then there's nothing to hang your hat on. It just becomes noise. It's just noise. I hate watching movies that are like you, Marlene. I grew up knowing all those words, hearing them every day, all day long. Never said them until I divorced. Right before I divorced my husband, I started using some cuss words. I had some anger issues, okay? But here's what happened. I started finding that it was easy to get into a habit of just saying it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to stop and ask myself, why am I saying these words? This is not what I've done my whole life. So I realized that I was talking to people who did not have much clue, and I was simplifying my conversation. Because then they could take the F word or the other bombs that you can drop and put any meaning emotional that they wanted on it, and they would love me. And I went, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. So it's easy to get into that in your writing. And if you cannot take those words out and it makes sense, then something's wrong.
Well,
something's wrong. And so there you go. Okay, anything else, anybody, before we close out?
Thank you for this opportunity.
Yes.
Oh,
so much fun.
It has been, and I really like talking about these things, and I'm glad I found two awesome people who could hold their own in a conversation like this, and me not have to drag stuff out of them,
We may not have said much growing up, but we've made up for it.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, listen, I'm going to take y'all off the stage. If you'll just stay on, don't hang up or anything. But I'm going to take you off the stage, and I'm going to close this out, and I'll be right back. Okay?
All right. Thank you again.
Well, Lynn Hesse and Marlene Ratledge Buchanan has been awesome, awesome. And I hope that as you're watching this, that you get some, especially if you're a writer, that you get some good stuff from it. And I'm going to end the recording, and I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. This is Angela K. Durden, middle initial K. And I am the publisher of Blue Room Books, as you can see behind my little thing that I designed. And this has been Stolen Hours. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.